All right, I do have a few people. Okay, so afternoon, everybody. Thank you, everybody that's attending here. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Duchess Rylyn Buchanan. I'm also a Mistress of the Pelican here in Eldemere. I've been playing in the SCA since about 1988 now. In real life, I am a school bus driver, and I am a school bus driver trainer. I've been a trainer for about 5 years now. I am halfway through a adult education teacher trainer of adult certificate with Conestoga College. So if I can just get everybody to kind of, I'm going to unmute you and kind of, if you can, or unmute yourself and we can introduce yourself. So we're going to go with Gwillick because he's the next person on my list. So if you can unmute yourself, Gwillick, and introduce yourself. Who you are and how long you've been playing in the SCA. What kingdom you're from too.
Good point. That's very relevant right now. So I am Gwillick Filius Brancu, Lord, from Eldemere and the Barony of Ramshaven. And I've been in the SCA since I was still in the womb. My parents missed Penzic because I was an August baby. So I have not been an active member for all of this time, but I have definitely been around, and it's sort of the family you can't leave. So you're stuck with me.
Ricardo.
I've only been in the SCA for just a year and a half or so now, but we're friends with Gina and Richard Cook, and they've been in it for a while. So we're just learning the ropes. We're sort of in sponge mode, trying to figure out what we like and what we don't like, and so far it just seems to be meeting some of the sort of primal sort of interest in me, like leather work and stuff like that. And I was just in the thing there about coins, and that's sort of striking a bit of a
Aha! See what you did there.
And the banner one.
Yeah, Vexology.
Vexology, yeah. That's sort of interesting too, and I wasn't really aware of that until this weekend. So
cool.
That's where I am.
I have R. Cogswell.
Hello, I'm Ray. I go by Finn as well. I'm actually a member of Dark. And I have slowly started, I guess, to get into the SCA for stuff. So it's nice just to join everybody for Fool, because I heard about it last year but wasn't able to attend, and just learning a bit more.
Althea? Did I get that right?
Yeah, Althea, hi.
Hi.
I'm from the other coast. I'm from Ontario. I've been participating since 1991, had originally started in science fiction conventions and then got involved in the SCA as well. So been active, do a lot with the martial community here in terms of manual rewriting and marshalling in the field and such is kind of my main interest. But I also just love attending lectures in general. And, you know, at this point, that means instead of going out and doing them, I'm spending time on my computer doing them. So gotten to sample Artemisia's Ithra yesterday and then some of your offerings today.
Fantastic. Who else have I got? How about Dorothea?
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Sorry, I just joined. Hi. Sorry, I was just talking gardening with somebody and I just joined. So are we doing introductions or
yep,
what?
Please. Please, just who you
hello?
are, where you're from, and how long you've been in the SCA.
I'm Dorothea. I'm in Brno, and I've now been in the society for 3 years.
Okay.
3 whole years. I'm a veteran. No, I'm kidding.
I have Margaret Young. I hear you're having lag issues, though.
If need be, you can type it.
Yep, absolutely.
It can also be easier on everyone's video and general connectivity if you're not speaking, to have your video off as well as your mic.
Who else have I got? How about Jane?
Hello. Mundanely, my name is April Rumble. I go by Jane Caldwell in the SCA. Yes, I started playing around 2010. So sort of in the middle. I'm really looking forward to this class, especially after your introduction, Rylyn.
Oh, okay.
Because, believe it or not, in a former life, I worked as an educator with NAV Canada. And one of the things that we did, we were always told as professional development that we would do these courses with Conestoga College.
Oh, okay.
So for 8 years, I worked professionally winging it. And every time they had a Conestoga course, we got too busy. So they never put any of us on them. So
that is too bad.
So I'm looking forward to applying my skills in a very different way with actual skills.
Fantastic. I think somebody's coming up as Bernard. I think that's Lita.
Yes, that would be me. Hi.
Hi.
I'm Countess Lita Lider Langkakasen. Everybody else calls me Lita though. I've been in the SCA 20-ish years, ish-esque, give or take. Yeah.
Have I missed anybody? Oh, Chelsea.
Hi. Can you guys hear me? It's the first time
Yes.
using it. Okay, cool. First time using it on my phone. I'm in my workshop. I go by Nicola Canis. I live in Trinovantia Nova in Eldemere. I got to go to Winter War 2 weeks before 2 weeks after I joined the SCA, so I am super new. Hi, I ask questions a lot.
I like questions. I love questions. Okay. All right, so now that we've got introductions, if we can use the raise hands feature here. Raise your hand, everybody, if you've ever taken a class.
You forgot me.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry. Who did I forget?
Hi, you forgot me.
Who did I forget?
Hello, me.
Oh!
SCA Margaret Young.
Ah, so you're finally, so your leg is better. Excellent.
Quick introduction then?
For the moment. Yep, quick introduction. My name is Bridget Liang, and here's my cat who is helping me. So you may see, you may hear or see, depending on if I'm going to be on camera or not, pushing the cat out of, I'm just trying.
How long have you been in the group? And maybe what's something you're interested in from the class?
Yeah, Margaret, you seem to be better if you're not, no video for you. It seems to be a little bit better for you. Okay. She has having huge lag issues. Okay. Unfortunate. That is unfortunate. So raise your hands, everybody. Use the raise hands feature so we can do this. If you've ever taken a class, not including this one, so another class. Who have we got? Yay! Who's taken a class before? There we go. I feel like I am talking to thin air. There we go.
I put a hand up.
It's not that thin.
Huh?
Oh, I just said I put my hand up. I don't know if you can see it though.
There we go. Hang on. There it is. Okay, fantastic. Okay, everybody raise their hand. Put their hands down now. Everybody raise your hands if you've ever taught a class. Excellent. Good. Good, 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 good. So, you know, most of us. If you've ever taken or taught a class that was super successful, you left that class and you thought, oh my goodness, I want to go do that. Excellent. Like to see that. Like to see that. How about anybody taken or taught a class that has gone terribly, just horrible? Nice quick ones on there. Yep, absolutely. Been to somewhere where it's just been an absolutely terrible class. Okay. Anybody have any formal adult education techniques or classes under their belt? Have anybody taken one? Okay. Oh. Okay. So, well. Okay, so we're all sort of starting from the same point then, which is great to hear. So, when we teach in the SCA, especially when we teach A&S stuff, we are doing adult education, and a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people don't think about it, but what we do is adult education. And I know that when I started taking the classes through Conestoga to benefit my job, it made me a much better teacher within the SCA. I am by no means an expert, but I hope whatever we talk about today is going to serve you in some tiny, small little way to helping you to become a better teacher, helping you to understand how adults learn, because it is quite a bit different than the theories behind how children learn. So we're going to start with theory. I know it's not the most exciting of the topics to be covering, but I'm hoping that with a place to start, then we can get to that, and we can go from that into how to apply it to the SCA. Okay, so let's start with definitions. Does anybody in response to education have a definition for pedagogy? You'll hear this one bandied around quite a bit. Pedagogy.
Religion?
Nope.
No.
Nope. Pedagogy is the study of children's education. So if you're instructing 4-year-olds or 5-year-olds, you're looking for theory, learning. That is, yeah, child's learning. Okay. How about andragogy? Nope. So andragogy is the study of adult education. And the father of adult education, at least here in North America, is a man by the name of Malcolm Knowles. And he is, you guys can see, hang on from the beginning. Let's see. I'm going to start from me. There we go. Good. And he had 6 principles when you talk about adult learning. So first and foremost, learners need to know. And I always remember this when I'm talking to adults, and that is they are very keen to know, how is it going to benefit me? How is what you want to teach me going to benefit me? They want to know the whys, they want to know the hows of how that teaching, and that applicability to learning into the real world is kind of what separates adults from children. The second concept Knowles talked about was this self-concept of learning. In general, adults are more self-directed in their learning process, and they're more independent. I think most of us, you know, we want to learn something, we go off and do it. That may mean searching YouTube, that may mean finding a video, that may mean finding a teacher, but we go off and we're self-directing our knowledge. The third one is prior experience of learning. Adults have a huge, vast reservoir of experience, of their failures, of their things that they've done, and because their brains are more mature, they're more able to put those sort of pieces together in order to make connections that perhaps younger students can't do. Next one would be readiness to learn. So again, they are ready to learn. Most of the time they're coming to you because they want to learn how to do it. Sometimes that's not the case with kids. Fifth one would be orientation to learn. So adults tend to be needs and problem orientated. So this is kind of a shift from children's to subject-centered learning. They want to place their learning in specific contents. They want to problem solve. And this is especially when you're talking about work environments, and you can see how that reacts to that, okay? Lastly, they are motivated to learn. So for adults, motivation, they're motivated to engage in the learning process. It's not intrinsic. It doesn't come from outside forces. You don't have your parents telling you, oh, you know, you have to learn this. You got to go to school. You got to get good grades. We're doing that because we want to, and we're motivated to learn. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second. And I'm going to open up for discussion. Which do you feel as is the most relevant of those to learning within the SCA? No right or wrong answer here, guys. So just either raise your hand and I'll get to you, or type it in the chat. What do you think? What do people, of those 6, what do you think is the most relevant when we're chatting about learning within the SCA? Motivation. Why, Dorothea?
I think a lot of people, especially the kind of people who take classes, they're in the SCA to learn new things, to, you know, learn a new craft, learn how to hit somebody with a sword properly, that sort of thing. They have this motivation to take a class because they're like, I saw that, that was cool, I want to do that thing, that's my motivation, I'm going to take a class.
Okay, cool. Anybody else got an opinion?
Trying to raise my hand here.
That's all right. Go ahead, Ricardo. Go ahead.
Okay.
There you are.
Well, I also think it's motivation, and
okay.
But I think it's because of, well, at least from our point of view, is that it seems to satisfy some sort of primal sort of way of expressing yourself,
okay.
And so we all come here for different reasons, like why we want to do that. Learning some craft, I think, interested in that time in our of our past. And then once you get in here, people sort of have to satisfy what they want to get out of it. So you have to ask them the question first before you move forward. And that way they can be more useful to the society and more useful to themselves.
Well, like you said, background context. What did you mean by that?
I paraphrased your slide in a way that I would understand and realize it. So I think it was point 2, whichever one that was, but that ability
they're directed and independent?
Yes.
Yeah,
and
okay.
What I took out of that was that adult learners have a lot of background context.
Okay.
And we have a reason, there's a reason why we will have attended each and every class. Now, sometimes it's, I have no idea what this is, and I want to find out what it is. But even then, we have some idea of how it might fit. We're coming to classes at SCA events because it has some relevance to us, and we can fit it in with things we already know. A historical context, a crafting context. It'll teach us something new in who we already are.
Right. So that's a little bit of that self-concept, but also a little bit of that prior experience coming in too. Right? Because we do. We have a ton of experience that we can draw on.
Absolutely.
All right. Anybody else got an opinion? Violetta, is that you? Waving?
Just waving hello.
Okay, hi. Do you have an opinion on what you think about what I just talked about, or did you just join late?
I joined a bit late because I was having difficulties with the password.
Okay, fantastic. Okay. Anybody else want to add what they think, you know, might be for them important in a context, in an SCA context? I know for me, often it's that why. Why do I have to do it this way? Why can't I do it the way I want to do it? You know, what's the advantage to doing it your way? And so that's that need to know. They need to know how it's going to be applicable, how it's going to work. So that's just me. Okay. All right. So, all right. Next theory we're going to talk about is going to be Abraham Maslow's self-actualization theory. Often you will hear this called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. He had this idea that there was a needs hierarchy, and that each lower need had to be satisfied before the next one can be fulfilled. So he argued, in fact, that until the lower need was fulfilled, that you would not be able to go to the next level. And they've, where is this? Come on, next. Is my, you guys can see that? Hang on. There we go. So each need is, once each need is regularly satisfied, then you can block that out and you can go on to the next level of need. And this cycle of needs fulfillment, need fulfillment and forgetting repeats over and over and over. And but the opposite is also true, that regardless of how high up the pyramid you go, making a lower need fall away can make you go right back to the bottom. And I know that this graphic has been bandied around in regards to COVID-19. You have a lot of people saying, here you are, you're here at this bottom kind of level of need, you know, that safety needs, that psychological needs for food and water. So at the bottom level, we have your basic psychological needs: food, water, rest, hunger, thirst, shelter, body control, okay? Next, you come the safety needs, so that need to be both safe, both in body and spirit. So this is not just physical safety needs, right? You need to have a safe place. You need to feel good about the place that you're in order for you to learn. After that comes your more psychological needs. So the need to belong, the need to have friends, the need to have intimate relationships. After that is the need to feel prestige and feel accomplished about doing things. And then at the very, 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 very top is this idea of self-actualization, or becoming one's full potential, including those creative activities. So now that I've been, again, I'm going to stop sharing and ask again. When we look at Maslow's, how can we use Maslow's in our teaching? What do we want to sort of say about Maslow's? I know for me, there's a couple of things that I can do as a teacher to make sure that I take Maslow's into account when I'm teaching. Safety and security. Yeah, absolutely, Nicola. You're totally right. That safety and security, we want to make sure that those teachings are safe spaces, right? That people feel good about being there, that, you know, we respect the individuals, okay? Yeah, yep, you're right. If you're completely right, Nicola. If you're not cool with the teacher, you don't feel good about the teacher, you're not going to ask a question about it. We could also make sure that those bottom level needs, you know, tell them where the bathrooms are, you know, make sure that the classroom's not too hot or too cold. We may have no control over that, but we do what we can. Okay? Yeah, psychological needs, absolutely, right? They need to be met. If they're not met, if you're too hot, too cold, too hungry, whatever, learning, it's really, really, really tough to learn without those psychological needs to be met. And then again, to make sure that those safety ones are met, that people feel safe, like I said, and that we can respect people and make it a safe space to be. Okay. Excellent. Okay, next one. Next theory we're going to talk about is going to be the Canadian in the group of this by the name of Albert Bandura. I always forget their first names. I just respond to them. Oh, there it is. Albert Bandura. Albert Bandura was a proponent of a theory called social learning or observational learning. And this had to do, basically in layman's terms, if I can get this to actually work, there we are, monkey see, monkey do. Okay, that we learn by observation, basically imitation and modeling. Okay, and what feedback though that we receive socially for those behaviors is going to be reinforced. Okay, so positive reinforcement, if they do something well and you say, yay, that was great, that will be repeated. And if you say, you know, that was a stupid idea, that is going to be not repeated. And I'm sure we're going to talk about this, but I'm sure you can see practical applications for observational learning. So Bandura said that there were 4 stages to learning, observational learning. Attention. So in order to learn, you need to be paying attention. Okay? Anything that distracts your attention is going to have a negative effect on your ability to observe what is happening. If you have something novel and interesting, that's more likely to grab somebody's attention, and it's more likely to keep their attention and keep them interested in learning. Once you've got their attention, then we need to retain that attention. So that's the attention portion of it. Okay, so you have to store the important parts about learning process. It can be affected by a whole bunch of things. Mental capacity can be retention, but it's vital to learning to be able to retain what you just paid attention to. The third stage is reproduction. So once that you have learned, you need to be able to reproduce it. So you have to basically perform the behavior that you've observed. Watching over and over and over and doing over and over and over can certainly improve your skill, but that is the basis for that. And then lastly is motivation. So in order for observational social learning to be successful, like I said, you have to, the social pressures that you see, that you get, or social feedback that you get from those behaviors, whether or not they're rewarded or punished, that will determine whether or not you do this behavior again. So then, so let's start with what kinds of factors can affect these requirements. Let's start with attention. What sort of things can affect our attention?
Children.
Children. Pets.
The things that are demanding our attention.
Cell phones are a biggie.
My cat was attacking me, demanding attention.
Absolutely. There are so many things. Time of day, absolutely can attend to. Hungry. Yeah, all of these things. And that hungry feeds back into Maslow, right? All of those things, they can certainly make it more difficult for us to pay attention. And if we're not paying attention, Bandura says we don't learn. Yeah, love that. Need to pee, being able to see or hear the presentation. Yes, those are all really good ones. What kind of factors affect our retention? Okay, keeping it interesting, absolutely, right? That certainly.
Being able to, sorry,
Go
being
ahead.
able to put things in context.
Yes, absolutely. Yep, if you don't have, or a teacher's teaching way above what your knowledge level is, that can sometimes very much affect your retention. How about reproduction? And reproduction really has more to do with when you're teaching actual skills rather than book learning. But what kind of things can we see that have a negative or positive effect on our able to reproduce something?
How about a disability such as not being able to see or hear what's being presented?
Yep, absolutely. Lack of examples and handable objects to observe? Sure.
Can you connect it to things you've already learned?
Yeah, can you connect it with things you absolutely? Whether the explanation includes all the necessary steps. I remember better if I write things down, even if I don't have to refer to notes. Sure. Class size, love it. Yes, absolutely. Right? I know for me, when I'm teaching a physical skill, a larger class size makes it tougher for me to do it. And last but not least, I want to talk about reproduction. Or excuse me, motivation. What things can affect our motivation? I want you, opportunity to actually practice the skill correctly. Yeah, absolutely. So we got a little bit of lag here.
Just interest in the subject and the result from the subject.
Yep. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say a little bit that I got, because I did actually get a chance to study a lot of learning from a psychology perspective myself.
Excellent.
Was our connection to the teacher, whether we feel that they are a safe person and a good person, one of us basically, really helps us learn. So if you can't connect with your teacher, or you're even worse if you're scared of them.
Oh yeah.
All you will reproduce is that you never want to see them again.
Right. So my question is, as teachers, and this is to me where Bendor really comes into focus, is how do you answer that first time somebody kind of got a question, right? And you're like, yeah, what is your question? Go ahead, I love questions, right? Are other people going to say yes and ask questions? Or are they going to be like, and if I'm like, why are you asking that stupid thing? That's where we can really see Bendor. Violetta.
I was going to say, if a person is open to questions from the beginning, it helps the learners learn because they know that the teacher is willing to teach them.
Right. Okay. Be honest in your answers. Absolutely. Positively be honest in your answers. And guys, don't be afraid to say, I don't know, let's go find out together. Because wow, isn't that cool? If you've got somebody that has brought up something or looked at it in a certain way, isn't it cool when you get to say, I don't know, let's go find out together what that is, okay? Yeah, the teacher's engaged and paying attention. Individual learning style, that's really interesting. We can have a huge long conversation about individual learning styles and my feeling on individual learning styles, but that's kind of a little above that scope. So, okay, great.
Can I pitch in one other thought?
Absolutely.
How I'm noticing how you're doing this is you're keeping us engaged.
Trying.
So you give us a single slide, you go over a couple of points, and then you ask us our opinions. You get us to think about it. That forces us to engage. And then you move on. So you chunk it and you get us thinking.
Yeah, and I get you thinking, trying to make those connections, right? Trying to make those connections between what we've learned and the next theory. And yeah, definitely. There's no question this was deliberately designed that way, okay? We're all contributing to our group learning. That's exactly it, right? And that goes back to Knowles, who says that we all bring as adult learners a wealth of experience to the learning process. And we would be foolish as teachers not to take advantage of that. Okay, good. This is awesome. So by the way, I'm so excited, guys. Okay, next slide. So, Bandura I did. Here we go. Okay, can I have a show of hands for anybody that thinks cooperative learning works in the sort of idea of like, especially when it's like high schools where they send you out to a job to do it. Yeah, so absolutely. Violetta, Jane, Margaret, Dorothea, Ricardo, fantastic. Lori, great. Okay, anybody think it doesn't work? Oh, okay. All right, well, you guys all can thank a gentleman by the name of John Dewey for cooperative education. He was a gentleman, an educator and a philosopher in the earliest 20th century. He pushed actually for education reform. He was not happy with the way education was going, and he advocated for a more hands-on approach, more active learning. And he, his style can best now be described, or is now described, as a what's called constructivism. And constructivism has a few major points, okay? The first one is that knowledge is constructed rather than passively absorbed. So back in the early bit of the 20th century, people believed that you were a vessel, you poured knowledge into this vessel, and you filled it up. And he said, nope, that he didn't believe that. What he actually said was that human learning is constructed, that we build on new knowledge from the foundation of our previous learning. And that prior knowledge influences new knowledge, where we've come from, what our experiences are, that all influences how we learn, okay? Learning is an active process, he says. Constructivism has this idea that we only learn with active engagement, that we only learn by doing and talking and seeing. All knowledge is socially constructed. So all knowledge is a social thing to do. Whether or not we read a book, which was written by a person, whether or not we have a teacher that's a real life person, whether or not we watch a YouTube video, or anything else, that is people connecting with one another. And so learning, all knowledge is socially constructed. It's something we do together. And he also said that all learning is personal. And that sounds really like it's contradictory, right? It's socially constructed, but it's personal. So it's socially constructed in the fact that we do it socially, but all knowledge is personal. So even every single one of you that's in this class will take away something different from this class. You're not going to take the same thing away because you all don't have the same experience and the same starting point. And lastly, he said that learning exists within the mind. So constructivists say that basically learning only exists within the human mind, and it doesn't necessarily have to match real world reality, which is an interesting point. We are constantly trying to develop our own sort of mental models to reflect what new information comes in. So I have a baseline, I get new information, and I try and construct what is happening in my own mental framework. It's a little bit of a deep theory. So, yeah. Okay, so on a personal note, this is me, the more and more I read about constructivism, the more and more I gravitate towards it as sort of my primary feeling on how learning actually works. I did a report for this past course on narrative learning, or learning through storytelling. as a method of learning. And if anybody is interested in that, it's a very powerful social, constructivist tool. I will willingly share the blog website with you and you guys can take a look at it, but that's a sort of thing. So it's kind of a deep concept. What's everybody taking away from constructivism? What are you taking away from constructivism?
Hi. I know one of my professors in university, we regularly did like group learning.
Okay.
Or like discussions about the readings and stuff like that. So we all kind of like were able to voice our ideas and bounce ideas off each other as well.
Yeah.
And like group projects and stuff like that were always, for the most part, pretty good. But it like really helped with us to like engage with the material itself and to engage with our classmates.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I always thought that that professor did an absolutely amazing idea. Like, yeah, she had like good pedagogy for teaching us as a whole.
Fantastic.
It was so good.
Fantastic. Yeah, so they're taking that idea that it's a social construct and really taking advantage of it. Violetta says that learning is very personal. Yeah, and it can be, certainly, absolutely.
I'm taking classes right now for business administration and human resources. And what you're covering is actually almost exactly what we're learning right now.
Yeah.
Is this good or bad?
It's actually helping to reinforce my learning.
Fantastic. Good. I'm glad. I'm glad. Yeah, I will. I'll get that website to the people that want it.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just gonna talk about sort of the converse in that in university, I had a teacher who was probably into that whole students are a vessel in which knowledge needs to be poured. And he would get up in front of the class and lecture at us for 50 minutes in a monotone. And there was like, he never asked us any questions. He never engaged us in anything. All he wanted to know is if we'd done the readings. I mean, it was like, you didn't necessarily, like, it was very hard to pay attention because there was no feedback. It was like watching a wall.
Yeah.
Whereas other classes where it's hands-on, or you have to teach somebody else what you've learned, or answer questions, or be engaged, and you're physically doing the work, whether it's writing it down or speaking it or constructing it, crafting it, whatever, it always sticks better. And I learned so much more than just listening to some guy talk at a wall.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. All right. All right, everyone, I have one more sort of theory to talk about. Then we're going to take a short little break, make sure we get those, up and moving and take care of those lower level needs. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about how we all going to put it together, okay? So the last theory I want to talk about is one that I actually didn't really understand when I first started teaching, so it really confused me, but the more that I actually have learned on how the heck this actually works, the stronger and more powerful a tool it becomes for me. So it is called Bloom's Taxonomy, and let's see whether or not I can get the thing up. Please, please, please. There we go. Okay, this Bloom's Taxonomy has probably been the backbone of lesson planning and objectives for probably 50 years now. So the idea is that there's a hierarchy to educational skills, each building on the one before it. There are a ton of graphical representations of Bloom's. If you don't like the staircase, fine. There are wheels, there are charts, sometimes it's represented as a pyramid. I tend to like the staircase because I find Maslow's is a pyramid. It's almost always shown as a pyramid. And this helps me to visually just look at the two and know I'm either talking about Maslow's or I'm looking at Bloom's. Okay. So here's the idea. So from lowest levels to highest levels, the first stage is that you have to remember. So it's about recalling facts and concepts. You can define, you can duplicate, you can make a list, you can memorize stuff, but it doesn't really prove any comprehension. So the next level is understand. So this is where you explain your ideas and concepts, you discuss the way topics in details, you explain what it means, you translate it in some way. They can paraphrase it or, or compare and contrast information. Okay, after that's conquered, then you can move up to the apply stage of learning. And this is where you take that information and you apply it to new situations. So whether or not it's solving a problem, demonstrating ideas, doing a sketch, or solving a problem, whatever works for the specific style of learning that we're talking about. Once that's happened, then you can go to the analyze category. And that includes things like differentiate, organize, compare, contrast, examine, test their knowledge in some way. It's really where you start to sort of get into critical thinking, is in that analysis stage. After that is the evaluate stage, where they praise or judge or critique something. And then lastly, you're at the create stage where you're creating original work. So basically, unfortunately, you cannot understand something until you remember it. You can't apply it without understanding it. You can't analyze it without applying it. You can't evaluate it without analyzing it. And you can't create something until you can evaluate it. You'll notice underneath each of the levels of the staircase, we've got some action verbs here. And those action verbs come into play when you start to write objectives. And they're really powerful when we start to write objectives. When you're writing objectives, the important thing to remember is try not to use the sort of staircase number. You want to use any of the action verbs underneath it. Okay, so I'm going to take a couple of questions. We're just about perfectly on time. So let's take a couple of questions, and then if we don't have anything, we'll take a 5-minute break, get up and stretch, and come back at, so anybody have any questions for me? Because I know this is kind of deep and heavy.
I have one.
Okay, who is talking?
Nicola.
Okay, hang on. Okay, go ahead, Nicola, and then I'll come back to you. Rosalie, go ahead.
Can you explain the John, what's his name?
Dewey?
Yeah, I got lost completely in a lag blur for you.
Okay.
So I caught none of it.
Okay. Hang around after, like in the break, and I'll explain it again, okay? So that we don't have to wait. Keep everybody. Rosalind.
Oh, I just wanted to make a comment. You would ask for comments and takeaways from the last one, and I just couldn't get in time.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. So from whom?
No, just that it's on the one hand very affirming to have the idea that learning is so personal, and also that it points both directions. Though yes, sometimes lectures and rote learning and so forth can be very, very dull, but it's also a fact that some people learn nicely from such things, or in certain types of knowledge are sometimes learned better in one way than another, so that it allows latitude both directions.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I have done in the past 5 years is do something I call put tools in my toolbox, right? So I have a standard list of tools. I'm teaching this, I try this. Sometimes it works. Most of the times it works. Sometimes it doesn't work whatsoever. And I want to be able to go into that toolbox and pick something else out. How can I explain it differently? What other techniques can I use? And that we can help with, Bloom can help with that, because you can look at it and say, okay, this is where I'm at. I want them to understand what might be some ways that I can teach it. When I get to objectives, and we'll take a look, a deeper look at Bloom, and go from there. So, okay. We got about 5 minutes, guys. You want to be back at about, let's say, 4:55. Go ahead, have a bio break, stretch it. I know for me, sitting at the computer is not a great thing, and I do want you refreshed to come back to it. And Nicola, if you want to stick around, I will see if I can make John Dewey make sense for you, okay? Anybody who wants to stick around and listen for more John Dewey can stay too, so. Okay. Fantastic. Nicola, fantastic. Okay, so.
Yeah, I've got to say something before that. I love your idea of bio break.
Thank you.
So much better than anything else.
Well, hey, I can't talk about Maslow and talk about your physical needs being met and then not give you a chance to meet those physical needs. So, John Dewey. Okay. All right. Okay, John Dewey. John Dewey. Let me see if I can get the thing back up there for you, Nicola, because I think the graphic will help. Back. There we go. Okay. John Dewey was a gentleman that was basically looking to reform. He was an educational reformist in the early 20th century. And he has come up with a theory that it now is, they now call constructivism. They didn't call it that in the early 30s, but that's what it's called now. So it's got a few basic tenets. One of the tenets is that knowledge is constructed rather than passively absorbed. There used to be this idea that students were empty vessels, you poured knowledge into them, and that was how they learned. And Dewey said that's not the way that it works. We construct new ideas based on previous knowledge. Basically, all knowledge is experiential. Okay? That learning is an active process. Okay, so we need to actively engage in something in order to be able to learn it. That all knowledge is socially constructed. So all knowledge, whether or not you read a book which is written by a person, you take a class from somebody like me, you watch a YouTube video, it is something that we do as a group, as a social construct. That being said, all knowledge is personal, which sort of kind of seems a little bit contradictory to one to the other, but every single person is going to take something different out of every single lesson. And every single person coming in has a different level of experience and knowledge and prior experiences that they can draw on, so that what they get out of it is going to be very different from everybody else. And that learning exists in the mind, so that it only exists in the human mind, and it doesn't necessarily have to match with any real world reality. This is probably, to me, the theory that I sort of gravitate towards. I did a project for this past thing on narrative learning, which is learning through storytelling, and I did a blog presentation on it. Narrative learning can be a really powerful tool for us, and if you want, I can send you the link to the website so you can take a look at it. Okay, sound good? Thumbs up.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I'm going to take a great, I'm going to take a stretch, and then I'll be back. What did I say, 5 minutes? Or about, yeah, okay, good.
She's leaving us unsupervised. Oh.
Can I not leave you unsupervised, Lita?
Anarchy.
Sorry, I had to.
No problem. I've spent a lot of time at the computer this last week, so
I can imagine.
Stretching out shoulder muscles is a good thing.
Yes. I can already see, just from listening to your class right up to this point, the changes, or just in my own manner of how I could have made my class this morning that much better.
Right. And now all we're talking is theory. Where do we get to the practical application? I'm so excited. Okay.
Lita, I have to say that your class this morning was awesome anyway.
It was. I would totally agree. But you know what? Very interestingly, one of the things that I got recommended in the class that I just took was when you do your lesson plans, always leave yourself a space at the bottom and take notes. What went well? What didn't go well? How can I improve myself?
I had a note page in front of me and was jotting things down. Not just, you know, oh, next time, don't do this, but also I was taking tidbits from the people that were talking at the end. It's like, ooh, hey, that's a good point. I want to go more on that.
Right. And so that's that taking the experience of your learners into account and, you know, shamelessly exploiting it, for crying out loud.
Yes, absolutely.
That's one thing that, because I've now got a very strong interest in adult online education because I've been taking online courses for 2 years. And one thing that I've noticed is lacking in the program that I'm taking is that there is no space for, in this particular design, for that kind of just relaxed chatting between among instructor and students together.
Are you doing Desire to Learn, by the way, just out of curiosity?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed that as a huge downside with, I've taken both totally online classes for this program that I'm taking, plus I've also done the hybrid courses. The last one I did was a hybrid course. I have to totally admit that the hybrid courses are much superior, because you get that, you can put a face to a name. So even if I'm posting on the Desire to Learn chat groups, I can put a face to the name of the person that I'm chatting with. And I found that to be a huge strength in my willingness to put myself out there and really get something out of the class. So, we got everybody back.
I just wanted to say something quickly.
Absolutely.
I'm quite enjoying learning online as well as in person.
Okay.
I'm actually taking courses in the morning and in the afternoons online through Trios College Office Teams.
Okay.
So the morning class, there are most of the people are off video. They're just listening into the professor, and the professor doesn't actually appear on camera, but he puts up the information on the screen. He shares his computer information on the screen. The afternoon class, the teacher has a much more personal approach. I've actually been in class with him before, so I know him very well. And his approach to teaching is quite different from the morning class.
And there are whole classes on, like, within the program I'm taking on Instructional Strategies, which is the one I just took. There are huge classes on, like, there's a whole class just on evaluation, which is interesting. It's going to be, really fascinating, but for an SCA context, probably not that useful, because we don't need to necessarily evaluate our students. It's a much more informal kind of thing. So anyways, are we good? 2 minutes after? We all good? Everybody back? Ricardo, are you back by that chance? Okay, good.
I'm back.
Excellent. Okay, thanks, Dorothea. Okay, everyone. Whew. Everybody refreshed? Ready to learn again? Great. When I first got into training, I thought objectives were a waste of my time. They were terrible. Having taken a couple more classes, I'm beginning to realize that what it was I had terrible objectives. Not that the objectives themselves were a waste of time, but that what I was seeing was really bad objectives, and any bad things is, tends to be a little bit of a waste of time. So, all right. Having done them, I really like writing objectives now. They are still really difficult for me. I still struggle to do them, but I think this is a matter of practice, that the more you do them, the easier they're going to get. And what I do find when I do manage to get a good objective and I do manage to write something down is it really helps me to focus my teaching, right? What can I throw out that I didn't really want to talk about? What do I, you know, what do I really want to talk about? What do I really want to say to this class? What do I want to get across? So, in order for us to have good objectives, we need 4 things. Think A, B, C, D. So, come on. There we are. Oh, how did I miss that? Apparently I'm like ahead of me. Wait, no. I think I have lost my lesson plan. Hang on a second, guys. Break. Okay, there we are. Let's try that one again. Let's stop that sharing and start again. All right. Yeah, well, this is what happens when you lose your lesson plan. Okay. Let's go back, and I'll do lesson plans in just a sec. Objectives in just a second. Okay, lesson plans. Gwilym, you have a poll there. I want you to put the poll up. So those of you that have taught, I would like you to answer this poll. So if you do objectives, or if you do lesson plans, what do your lesson plans look like? Well, if you got that poll for me?
I don't actually know how to make a poll happen.
Okay, it should be there. So if you go down to the bottom where it says participants in chat and share screen, there should be one that says poll.
This may be one of the reasons why I occasionally hate Android.
Okay. Well, then we'll just do it without. Okay, so how do you best describe your lesson plans? Who would say lesson plans? What are lesson plans? Raise your hand here. Anybody? No? Okay, good. So at least you have a good idea. Who would say, I jot some stuff down on a piece of paper? You know, the little pieces of paper plan. Violetta. I think Lita probably. That's kind of what you said. You jotted a few things down today for what you were going to do. Edward did that for his class. Anybody use a formal lesson plan like BOPs or ropes or something they've made up? No?
I have.
You have? Who's that?
It's Ray. I was a teaching assistant for a little while, so we all had like a formal way of doing stuff.
Perfect.
And we kind of got taught how to do things.
Great. Okay, so you've used formal lesson plans. Anybody else? Margaret, you've used formal lesson plans before? Formalized lesson plan? Yeah, I'm not shocked, Jane, if you're working for companies, they often use them.
Yeah. Margaret is a TA, and I have also used them.
And you've used them? Okay, fantastic. Okay, so anybody use a formal lesson plan with objectives?
I would say so.
Yeah, okay, great. All right, so some people yes, some people no. Yeah, okay, fantastic. Yeah, I would, anybody that's doing formal teaching, we tend to do formal lesson plans and with objectives. So I'm going to actually screen share for you guys. And for those of you that do lesson plans or, you know, those of you that don't, can you see my Word document there? There we go. Yeah. How do you find they benefit you?
It gives you a path from beginning to end with what you want to convey to the group of students.
What else?
Helps you remember.
Oh, there's a good one.
Want to have on the path.
Yeah.
It kind of like helps you figure out like a mind space of where you want to be, like as a teacher, in terms of like what topics you want to cover and what order as well, and like what you want the students to get out of your classes.
And you
I
can
think somebody's pinging me there.
Yep. April notes structure. It gives building blocks moving from small concepts to bigger ones.
Oh, okay. No.
Yep. And by the way, spelling is not period, and I am terrible at it, so just ignore my spelling that you guys can see. But anyways, what else? Anybody else have some stuff? Anybody who not do lesson plans, could they see a benefit here of what they could do?
I can see where a true formal lesson plan might be better for me than just that, 4-point overview that I put at the top of my lesson.
What was that, Lita? You said it would. You think it would?
I think a more formal lesson plan to what I kind of presented would be much better.
Okay. What do you think it's going to give you?
Literally, it's like that first point. It's a path that everybody can see, that I can see as well, and I can just go down it, because I may know a lot of stuff, but unless I've mapped out how I want to get that out of my head, it doesn't happen. It just kind of stops here, and yeah.
I'm gonna jump in as well.
Oh,
I
sorry,
know for
I just wanted to get someone who'd posted in the chat first.
Yep.
If that's okay.
Go for it.
Rosalind had said, for me, I'd have to say it's a range. I have winged it with a couple of note cards, etc. Or I may read with informal breaks for comments or Q&A, or I may have an outline, but I've never used a formal lesson plan. It depends on subject and experience level.
Okay.
Okay.
I know for some of the stuff that I've done is that having a lesson plan is great in theory, but no plan survives the enemy. And no matter like how much planning you do, sometimes you just have to chuck that out of the window. And like, it depends upon like how your students are as well. Like if it's a one-on-one sort of thing, it becomes more of a conversation. And conversations and the like can go in very meandering different
down rabbit holes.
Yeah.
Well, even me, I have a formal lesson plan, and I just flipped the wrong page and started at the wrong topic. So, no lesson plan survives contact with the enemy. Oh, sorry, schools, students.
Yeah, exactly.
What else? What else do you think that a lesson plan can do for you?
It keeps me organized and on topic so that I get through all the material in the time allowed. Sometimes it's I can check, okay, we're on halfway through the lesson plan, halfway through the time allotted, good, I'm on track.
Yep.
Something, although I didn't take ECE myself, I was around the early childhood education program a number of years ago, and they are mandated to make sure that they don't overbalance how they are teaching young students. They are mandated to cover physical, social, emotional, intellectual, etc., artistic. And so every lesson plan and activity plan needs to carry something in each. And I found that just having to write out how does this support this learning objective really forced different thinking in design.
All right.
And April also had something. Can be used to organize tools that you want to use, cues for PowerPoint, or when to start a demo.
Okay. Anybody else have anything they want to add? So you guys, you see what you've done. I am going to share my other screen with you, and I put together some feelings that I had about how lesson plans benefit me, and I want to just see how you guys do here. Backwards. Oh, that's what I was. Okay. Oh, I'm wrong way. My goodness, we're flipping through the wrong. Let's try that again. Ha ha ha. Okay, has stopped. The screen sharing is closed. Sorry, guys. I am here.
This is another benefit of having a lesson plan. You can go back to it
And
if you
say,
lost where
where
you
was
were.
I? Where was I? Okay. So if I then do that, and I share my screen, and all right, doesn't want that, but that's okay. We'll say on current slide. See if we see if this works here, guys. There we go. Can you guys see that? Can you see my next slide?
Yep.
Do you guys see the next slide? Some reasons to use a lesson plan?
I've got it.
Good, okay.
All
right, good. Just making sure the screen share is working here, okay? So this is some of the reasons I came up with when I thought, what do I like to get out of a lesson plan? Well, for me, it allows me to reflect and identify some gaps in my knowledge. If I want to talk about, you know, something, and I realized, oh, I'm not feeling real strong on that. What does Maslow say again? I can go back and I can do some research ahead of time so I feel confident in class, right? Because for me, a lesson plan absolutely improves my confidence. If I can look at that and go, yep, okay, that's what I want to talk to next. I know where I'm going. I know what that path is. I feel much more confident. And I think confidence means a lot for a teacher. You've all had teachers that weren't so confident, and they, you know, and it showed, and it wasn't nearly as an enjoyable experience, okay? It gives you the ability to reteach the same class over and over and over and over again, really, really easily. It gains the ability for somebody else to teach my class, right? So if I was sick, I could have handed somebody, honestly, this is the lesson plan that I did up for this class in particular is 9 pages long. And it totally, I could have given it probably to any of you, and you probably could have followed it along, okay? It helps to focus on how you will and what you're going to teach. I think April said that. And last but not least, it allows me to self-reflect. What went well? What didn't go well? How can I improve? Right? Because we need that ourselves if we're going to become better teachers. Hopefully I've kind of convinced you that maybe that lesson plans might be a good idea. You can Google formal lesson plans. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of out there that you can just look. These are a couple of really popular ones. They're called Bops and Ropes. They're 2 different styles. They're a lesson plan on, you know, what you should do. I didn't like anything. When I went looking for a lesson plan for myself, I didn't like anything that I had. I actually made up my own. That's more than cool. This is my template for a lesson plan. And you'll notice it's got lesson plan, it's got a date, it's got a space for my objectives, that intro, an icebreaker. Most of these don't have a time, and that was something that I really found missing. I want to know how long am I expecting this to take, and at what point in the program should I be sort of done and over with it, okay? And then how I'm going to accomplish objectives 1, 2, 3, how I'm going to recap the session, and last and not least, some self-reflection notes. So I'll go back to objectives because I talk about objectives here. And like I said, when I first started doing this, I thought objectives were a total waste of time. And they really were just bad objectives. They weren't worthwhile because they weren't good examples. So if we're looking at what makes a good objectives, we can think A, B, C, D. So A is the audience. So often this is written in when you're talking about objectives as the students or the group of students, or those are the usual ways that they are written. Okay, B stands for behavior. So behavior is, we want to use one of those action verbs out of Bloom's to write observable, measurable behavior that starts to show mastery of whatever we are. So let's take a look. This is where Bloom comes in really handy. So you'll see this is actually here, the objective for this section of the class that I'm doing. So you'll see by the end of the session, the students as a group and using all available resources shall demonstrate that they can correctly identify if a objective has met all of the elements of the ABCD formula. So if we look here, if we look at the objection section of the class, what level of learning am I expecting out of you guys based on Bloom's? Which level of Bloom's are we looking at?
Understanding.
Nope, up from that. So what's the action verb in this objective?
Apply?
Yes, we are in the apply section, right? So that's that demonstrate. You shall demonstrate, and then you look at the apply section, and you can see it there about most of the way down in that apply section is demonstrate. I could have chosen understand for this objective, but I kind of wanted a little bit more out of you guys. So I chose instead to move that up and to have you apply what we're talking about.
Can I ask a question there?
Absolutely.
So you've got, shall demonstrate that they can correctly identify.
Yeah.
So now my question is, if remembering and identifying is part of the remember step,
yep.
How does someone demonstrate that they have simply identified something?
So when you're writing objectives, you can assume that if you are looking at an upper level, say apply, that you have to understand in order to apply, and you have to remember to understand. So by showing me that you can demonstrate, you're also showing me that you understand and remember. That make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Well, this wants to go regardless. It wants to go. There we go. The last two objectives, or the last two ABCs of well-written objectives, or factors of well-written objectives, include condition and degree. They're usually the ones that get missed or omitted when you're talking about more informal settings. So the condition is, what conditions am I placing on you? So is it using all available materials, or without using your textbook, or with the aid of a diagram? And often they get forgotten in less formal settings. I try to make sure I always do them just to keep myself in practice. And the last and not least one, which is probably the one that most gets forgotten, is the degree. So the degree is, what criteria are you using to measure success? With a 60% grade, within 2 minutes, how do you measure success? So there we go. So let's take a look at the first objective here. By the end, and does it meet with the ABCs? So by the end of the session, students will understand stained glass. Is it a well-written objective?
No.
No. What's it missing?
It doesn't tell you how you will know if they understand it.
Correct.
So it's missing C and D for sure.
Absolutely.
And I think it's also missing a bit of B, but I didn't quite absorb all of the ABCs. So
yeah, no, you're totally right. It is missing that behavior.
I'm also not sure what is meant by understand stained glass. Oh, sorry, am I?
No, you're totally right.
I mean, is it the chemical composition, how to stain glass, what the safety protocols are? There's nothing there.
That's right. So that is too vague, right? It's too vague. That behavior is too vague for it to be a good objective. Okay? Next one we're going to look at. Be conscious and have a deep understanding of corpora, kingdom law, that you as a seneschal must be in accordance with, and the consequences of not obliging by those laws. Good objective, bad objective.
there's no behavior part in there though.
There's no behavior part in there. Funny, this is actually, I stole this objective from somewhere else and kind of modified it for SCA, and I knew it was a bad objective. This is the sort of objective that I used to see, and why I didn't feel it was like they're a waste of time. They're just words on a paper, okay?
They post this kind in every syllabus that I've read in the past 2 years. I'm like, how can I show you that I have a critical understanding of oppression? You haven't told me how you want me to show you that.
Right. And so we end up, when we look at objectives, we end up looking at really bad objectives, and we think, who cares? Why bother, right? Okay. Let's look at the next one. So by the end of the session, the students as a group and using all available materials shall demonstrate they can correctly identify an objective meets all the elements of the ABCD formula. Good objective, bad objective? Not bad, better, certainly an improvement on the last one. It is missing something though. What's it missing?
I think you still haven't asked or written out how we would demonstrate that.
Correct. And how do I measure success? So I'm missing that D, I'm missing that degree portion of the objective. I mean, it's not bad, and for an informal session, this is probably just fine, okay? And last but not least, given a diagram of a loom, students will be able to correctly label all 9 different parts within 2 minutes. Good objective, bad objective.
I think it's got all the bits. It's got what you want them to do. It's got how you are going to evaluate them. It's got, you know, a time frame, so it's, you know, it's concise.
Oh, I like that. That concise. That's a good one too. So yeah, so we quickly identify our audience, and our audience is
the student.
The students. We correctly identify the behavior. What are they going to do?
Have the ability to label the 9 parts of the loom.
What is the condition part of this?
2 minutes.
Nope, that's the degree.
So, oh, yeah, sorry.
They will be able to correctly label the 9 different parts.
The diagram.
The diagram. The condition is what constraints are we putting on them? So we're going to give them the diagram, or what resources we're going to do. So that's the C is the diagram, and yep, that D is that 2 minutes that we're going to allow them to correctly identify it. Okay. Questions about objectives, and I hope you can see how good objectives really help you to focus and how bad objectives are just words on a paper.
So when you've got a degree, does it have to be that precise, like within 2 minutes, within an hour, or could it be more general, like students will be able to use a spindle to weave length of thread that is, you know, within, you know, by the end of the weekend, or something more general like that?
Yeah, it can be by the end of the weekend. Sure, that's a times constraint. You know, these don't have to be. You just want to make sure that what that degree is, how do I measure success? How am I measuring whether or not somebody succeeds at this objective or somebody fails at this objective?
So for my spinning example, I could say they can demonstrate that they can use a drop spindle to spin thread into a ball, and then, you know, and then they come to me with a ball of thread, and I'm like, yep, you did it.
Yeah, or a certain length. You could say, you know, 10 meters of thread, or, you know, so many, you know, without breakage. You know, just whatever it is that you do to measure success on this objective. All right. So I'll stop sharing there just for a second. Okay, so let's take a look at instructional strategies. And I want to take a look at what sort of instructional strategies have you seen in the SCA? And when I talk about instructional strategies, what I mean by that is methods by which you have been taught something or you teach something. Okay, so I'm going to again share our, that's not what I want to do. Share again my lovely screen, and we'll take some notes here. And we can talk about what kind of instructional strategies do we see. I'll start with one, lecture. There's a good one. It's one we see a lot. What else have you seen used as an instructional strategy?
We've got from, sorry, I'm just going by the names written in the chat, Chelsea. Let's see, Thord hit me in the head with a helmet on, I should say. Very see, monkey do.
So that would be perhaps a demonstration, right? Demonstrating how that you're going to throw a proper blow. What else?
Hands-on.
Okay.
Actually do the activity.
Okay.
Very much fruits of our labor style.
Yep, you bet. Fruits of our labor style. Yep. Hands-on, what else? What else have you seen?
Dorothea notes that hands-on works very well for embroidery too.
Sure. There are a lot of things that, you know, subject matter does have a distinct bearing on what instructional strategies you want to take. But right now, I just want to brainstorm anything that you've ever seen. Anybody? Here, I'll give you another one. PowerPoint.
I was just going to say that.
Okay.
Games.
Games, sure. Gamification's a big thing in lately when you're talking about both pedagogical and andragogical learning. Gamification's huge. You can do a whole thing in gamification.
Got a couple more.
Go ahead.
Sending one to Google search something.
Okay.
We've got a couple group conversations.
Yep, like we're doing here.
Yep, and bring your question about subject, like the sewing help workshop. So I might call that roundtables.
Or Q&As. Okay. Anything else? That's a good start. Okay, so I want to now take another look at blooms, and I'm going to show you a version of blooms that I actually find way more powerful than the one that I originally showed you. Okay, and what this has done is this has taken it's called Suggested Instructional Strategies to Use with Each Level of Bloom's Taxonomy. So you can take a look, and you'll notice a lot of what we're looking at, sort of those lectures and videos and audios, you know, the question and answer, they all have to do with sort of the lower level of that comprehension and knowledge section. And when you're talking beginner classes, they work just fine. There is nothing wrong with those. However, if you want people to either apply or analyze some things, you know, especially for those intermediate and more advanced classes, I want to talk about some strategies that we don't often see that might be, that are kind of overlooked, okay? So I want to take a look at like group projects. So you'll sort of see those sort of in that upper level, in that synthesize, evaluate, create section. I know that Her Excellency Lucia did a very successful group project where she had everybody weave part of a pillow. Can anybody else think of something else that we might be able to use group projects to facilitate?
Rosalind is working on our group project. We're doing a tabard for investors.
Fantastic, excellent. Ooh, I love it, love it.
So I was using Her Excellency's embroider to the pillow thing as a way to get people in Brno to do their own embroidery, and then showing people how to do simple embroidery steps and sort of using that as a group project.
Yeah, so you start with those lower levels, you start with that, you know, this is demonstrations, this is show you, and then you go to that group project to facilitate deeper understanding of what, of how to do it.
Dorothea said research paper.
As in, to use it as a, oh, like a group research paper? Yeah, I suppose that would be really cool.
I came from Skaya's talk about research, and one of the first things that I learned was she had done a research paper at the Kingdom A&S that I first went to, and I took that home and I read it over, and I learned a lot from her research. So,
Great.
yeah, that was just something that kind of struck me kind of later on. Sorry.
What else? Anybody else think of anything else we could?
When I was in class, we actually did a group presentation of how meetings should or should not go in a formal meeting situation at work.
Okay.
And had different people portray different prototypes or personality types.
Okay.
And we each had a lot of fun trying to portray the being of ourselves.
Okay, so that actually sounds like a group project, but it actually sounds more like the another one I wanted to talk about, which is role plays, right? So you're taking on that sort of persona of somebody, and you're presenting in that way, and role playing. And you'll see role plays are well up the top of the chart there. They're an excellent way to make it. Can anybody else think of other places that we might be able to use role play to teach within the SCA?
Well, the fact that many of us develop a persona gives us an opportunity to really think through, who would I be? What would I need to know if I were this person? Which leads to a much deeper dive than, you know, this would be my name and this would be my century.
Yeah, absolutely.
I could also see for new people to the SCA, sort of a role play of how to address lords and ladies and what court looks like and stuff like that, so that they're not just smacked in the face with a whole bunch of etiquette that they don't know anything about. You can kind of role play out a demonstration of this is how to behave before they have to do it.
That's a great one. I was thinking court, in fact, like for heralds, we can do the two where, you know, you could have a mock court and the herald could stand up and, you know, pretend to be, and you know, have a couple people play the king and queen. Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Got anybody else with a role play here? No? Okay. Next one I want to go on to talk about briefly is case studies. Can anybody think of a place where we might be able to use case studies in our SCA teaching, you know, careers?
I have a thought.
Excellent.
In terms of, say, reconstructing, oh, I don't know, like a bog gown or something like that. So you take an actual find, archaeological find, and you discuss the evidence that you find in connection with that example, and then with other related examples.
Yeah.
To kind of build a pattern.
Right. Absolutely. The other one I was thinking too is, okay, here's this whatever that has spectacularly failed. What did I do wrong? How could I improve? What should I have done differently?
I think Lita just made a suggestion for how one of those could go. Case study, Lars put wolfsbane in the mead in 1209. It did not turn out well. Discuss how Lars could have avoided disaster.
Exactly. Precisely. But those are all, you know, just some ideas to get away from the idea of, you know, always going to what we're comfortable with, which is often lectures and videos thing. Two more I want to touch on. Teach back. Teach back.
I don't know what that is.
So that is, I teach you something, and then you have to teach a partner. Okay, I'm going to teach you, and then you teach a partner, or you teach back to me what you've just learned.
I'm going to jump in there.
Excellent.
I find that teaching back helps reinforce your own knowledge, like vastly.
Absolutely.
Like, if you're teaching a student and you can't, then you don't know it yourself. So then you have to go back to your original teacher to reevaluate like what you know.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, because I've done this, but just not formally or in a formal or an informal class session, but just sort of like I've taken a class and learned something and then gone home and excitedly blabbed at somebody else and taught them what I just learned.
Yeah. Okay, but you can do that on a smaller, in a more formal setting too, if you want to and prefer. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with somebody having to stand up at the end of things and say, okay, what did you learn today? Or, okay, how could you, you know, apply this? All of those are perfectly valid, great instructional strategies that we just don't tend to use within the SCA. Last one I want to chat about is critiques. Now the primary place that we often use critiques is at Kingdom A&S, and they can be really hit or miss at Kingdom A&S. Partly that has to do with the fact that feedback is a skill. Both taking and receiving feedback is a real skill, and one that we don't practice nearly enough. So a lot of us are not great at it. And I think that the other thing is you really have to be ready for that critique in order, you have to be almost nearly at the end of Bloom's taxonomy for you to be able to get anything out of it. So, but can anybody think of another place that maybe we might be able to use critique? Nice, gentle, good critique, constructive critique in our SCA career?
Lita is noting that critiques can be brutal.
They can.
One thing that made it much easier, I was actually a fourth year class trying to get better at APA, and so the instructor pulled up an example of a terribly formatted research paper and said every time you shout out something that was wrong and what it should have been, I will give you candy.
Ah!
The candy was flying through the air. I've never been so motivated to care where a comma went.
Okay, so what are we using there? So we're using social observational, right? Because he's positively rewarding behaviors. He's using group discussions and critiques. Hey guys, don't laugh that one out, okay?
This is Althea, I mean, and on tier, I mean, speaking specifically about arts and sciences critiques. About 3 years ago, they completely revamped the arts and sciences judging system, actually basically done from a bunch of teachers who were elementary school teachers to actually try to start making it constructive, supportive, growth-oriented. I mean, to still be giving people honest, constructive, high standards feedback, but
Absolutely.
to reward it in a much more positive and helpful manner.
Right. Again, feedback is a huge skill. People think, no, whatever, but it's really a really big skill, and it's one that we really don't practice enough. We totally don't. I just want to add.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the shit sandwich method?
Yes, indeed. Very interestingly, that one has been, it's gotten some pushback in more recent times as to whether or not it's actually as effective as originally thought, you know, but it just is an interesting kind of thing. Okay, so I just want to add one more thing, guys, and that is that when I'm doing lesson planning and I'm doing objective writing, this is not set in stone. I don't know how many times I rewrote the objectives for this class. Probably at least 6. I've tweaked them. No, I don't want to talk about that. I decided, no, that's no good. I've redid the instructional strategies, a bunch of stuff. That's totally okay, guys. Don't let the lesson plan and the objective get in the way of great teaching and great learning. So, great. Just a couple things before we sign off and head on, and that is, I would love you guys, there is a handout section on the Fool website. I would just like, what do you guys want to see? What would you like me to put there that you're going to find useful in the future that I can stick up there? Does anybody have some?
You were mentioning about using storytelling as a teaching tool.
Yep.
So there's a lot of people, I think, that are really interested in that. So that would be
absolutely. I can leave the blog there. Absolutely, great. Anything else? You guys want me to Blooms or anything of that nature?
Your PowerPoint presentation.
Okay. I can totally do that. It's quite bare bones. I did 2 hours and it's 14 slides. So, which to me is what good PowerPoint should be, right? They shouldn't be, I read off the PowerPoint, you know, it should be very much more of a just key points. So I can put it up there, certainly. I won't do that. Just bear in mind, it's not that intensive about that. The recording will go up on the YouTube channel eventually, so you guys can look forward to that. Anything else that you would kind of like me to put up? Do you guys want the lesson plan?
Yes, that would be good.
Yeah.
Okay, because I can put that up too. That's no problem. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, I was about to say an example of a lesson plan or a set of objectives would be great. So
fantastic. Yeah, so
more of the critique stuff, right?
Please, I welcome your feedback. I honestly do. Yeah, so I will put all of that stuff up. I'm just going to make myself some notes so that I don't forget, because the longest memory is still shorter than the shortest pencil. PowerPoint and the blog link. Okay.
Something that could be fun for our group's context would be just like a minute or two at the beginning of what like early medieval teaching methods tended to be, as a kind of a compare and contrast, and like, woo, I'm glad I wasn't born in 900.
I'm gonna have to research that now, my friend. I've been so focused on modern, because of what I do. I've been so focused on modern teaching techniques that I haven't actually delved yet into medieval stuff. So, hey.
Can I irresponsibly tell a very quick story that may not be true, but I kind of hope it is in a way?
Go!
So suppose I heard from somebody, and it's very shady because I have no sources. I don't even remember who told me, but that letter grades may have come in because the Jesuits didn't think that beating boys with a stick was sufficient punishment.
Right. Just before we wrap up, guys, I just want to take a couple minutes, take a second to reflect on, what do you think? What do you think you're taking out of this class? What do you think? How can it help you with your teaching career going forward? Violetta.
I'm just going to say that teaching can be as much fun as learning.
You bet.
I haven't taught any classes in the SCA or anything formally ever. So I just wanted, this is helpful to try and like figure out how to start on a good foot, I guess.
I might try writing. Oh, yay. Yay! Somebody's going to try writing objectives. Yay!
So far,
Exciting.
for me, any teaching I've done is within Toastmasters.
Okay.
So it was interesting to hear different perspectives on different experiences. I guess that's for me. Yeah.
Good.
I'm always hungry for a new way to get across information when I've been asked to do some sort of workshop or presentation. Everybody has the idea that it doesn't matter what word they use, workshop, presentation, symposium, they still expect somebody to be at the front with a PowerPoint talking and then questions at the end.
Yeah.
And I love surprising people, but I want to be able to surprise people a lot more. I love engagement.
Fantastic.
But I don't always know how to do it because I don't see examples.
Fantastic. So, Gwillick, feel free. I will actually do that, guys, while we're chatting. Feel free, everybody, to contact me. I am always happy to talk adult education. I don't often actually get to do it, but more than happy to. My name, my address, I'm on Facebook. I have most of you on Facebook, but if not, my Facebook ID is Rylyn Buchanan. And my email, which you probably all got, because you probably all got messages from me about class codes, is twofishycat@gmail.com. So you are 100%, I'm always available to chat, grab me at an event, what have you. If you want to bounce ideas, hey, I'm doing a class and on this, I'm more than happy to help you talk through objectives. I'm more than happy to brainstorm with you ideas on how you might present this different instructional strategies that you might have. Yeah, we can make learning so much more than, like Gwillick said, somebody at the front with a PowerPoint, just clicking, the next slide, the next slide, the next slide.
Ooh, Lita's suggesting a teaching guild.
A teacher's guild. Oh, geez, like I need any more work, Lita. But yeah, if you guys see a need for that, we can certainly set something up, even if it's informally to start with.
If we want to get, we can start it, and yeah.
All right. Anybody have any last minute questions or what have you? And if not, then I'm going to let you guys all go to your dinners. And thank you very much for attending. I hope you had as much fun as I did, because I had a riot today.